some of the managers that collaborate with Prep My Hire are here today. So I'm glad to now open the floor to them so we can hear their take on the hiring process. And we will start with Peter Peng, who is the Director of Technology, Operation and Infrastructure at a retail company. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Sophia. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for joining us today. I know you've been helping a lot of people in a lot of capacities, but why do you like to help others when it comes to the interview process?
I think very much for the same reasons that you mentioned earlier. I find that when I actually interview candidates, I find that a lot of them are lacking just very basic interview skills, and really it for me it saves me time if I get quality candidates as well. Right. And also aside from that, I think just in terms of helping people and from all different levels of careers, to me it makes me feel like I'm also giving back to the community as well.
Yeah, that makes sense, and thank you so much for being on the same mission and vision with us in that regard. And let me ask you this, based on your experience so far, what is the most important thing that you look for in a candidate?
Well, I mean, one of the most basic things I look for when interviewing a candidate is obviously that they are a match for the position that I'm trying to hire. Some basic qualifications in terms of experience, in terms of knowledge and expertise. But aside from that, one of the things that I really look for with the candidates is their ability to learn and also to be flexible in terms of their responsibilities and openness to learn. Because what I found was that through my experience, a lot of times job descriptions, you might have a job description when you're hiring, but within a matter of 1 or 2 years or maybe even 3 years, that specific experience has changed, right? Because of the different technologies that your company is using, or different different requirements or different needs of the business. So I typically try to look for someone with a basic set of skills and knowledge, but really one of the most important things aside from that, like I said, is their ability to be flexible and to adapt to technology and to adapt to new technology.
Yeah, definitely flexibility it's a must in these areas, especially with all the changes that are constant. Thank you, Peter. I really appreciate your input on that.
My pleasure.
Let's hear now from Sam, who is a senior director at a data discovery company. So Sam, hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. I know you've been for years now in this technical world, and you've been working with vendors. So what has been your experience when hiring for those technical roles?
I think that it's a great question, Sophia, and I think that Peter nailed it. One of the most, well, I actually think about 3 things when I'm hiring for technical roles. The first one is, of course, if you're looking for a technical role, you need a technological baseline, right? Certain amount of knowledge about the basic technologies that you're looking for that have to be there. I don't know, for example, Linux, Docker, Kubernetes, Microsoft Windows to an extent, depending on what you're applying for. The second one, and I concur 100% with Peter, is the ability to learn. I think that at the pace technology is moving, it is incredibly hard to find the ideal candidate with all of the exact skills that you need. However, what you're looking for is a person who has enough technical abilities and that also has its own ability to learn. That's critical for me. Otherwise, you can have the best candidate in the world, but the moment technology starts changing, then he's going to be left, or her or she's going to be left behind. So we cannot afford to have that. And the third one for me that is very, very important is teamwork. I think that in my career, I encountered a lot of very challenging individuals who were unable to collaborate in a team. And that actually hinders entire dynamics. So those are the three things that I'm looking for. Just repeating myself is technological baseline, ability to learn, and ability to be in a teamwork environment.
Thank you, Sam. That's very important. I think a lot of the times there's this idea that in technical roles, you need certification and that's it. But I really like the idea of having also the what's considered a soft skill. So
Yep, absolutely. Certifications are value added, but in my opinion, is not the most important thing.
thank you so much. That was a great answer and very, very
Thank you.
interesting perspective. Now we can hear from Ricardo Vargas, who is a productivity manager at a financial organization and who can share with us his thoughts as well. Hola, Ricardo.
That's Sophia. Hey, everyone.
Hi. I know that you have moved, well, you have worked in Latin America and now you moved to the US, so you're working here as well. What would be your advice for somebody who is deciding to do the same change and start their career in the US?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. So I think for anybody moving from a different country, it can be overwhelming, that transition period, especially as an applicant. And I have kind of been in both places, right? I have been in the managerial side and also as an applicant moving to America. And one of the things that I learned is that American companies are very diverse. Everyone comes from a different background. Everyone comes from a different place. Now, the process, the interview process itself, it may not be that different because it's very much dependent on the company that you're applying for. So whether you're in India, in Mexico, in the US, somewhere in Europe, the process is most likely to be very similar in all of those locations. But as a manager, you can expect people to have obvious cultural differences, as well as the applicants to face managers with cultural differences. So we all have to really keep an open mind in terms of the candidate that we're interviewing or the person that we're interviewing for. And another thing that I have learned about American companies now that I'm here in the US is that they're very much a fast-paced environment. So be willing to go to an interview prepared and obviously be able to provide concrete, accurate answers to what you're being asked, I think is a primary key of being successful in an interview. So preparation, as some of the others have mentioned, and don't be afraid to, show who you really are, and be willing to take some risks and kind of overcome that first stage of how overwhelming it can be to move from a different country. So yeah, that would be my advice. Keep an open mind, be accurate, prepare, and be informed of the role and company that you're applying for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's good to remember that you're not alone. A lot have been in the same situation, and there is a way to kind of go around the initial stress that you have coming from a different culture. So thank you, Ricardo, so much for your insightful perspective as well.
Thank you, Sophia.
And now, last but not least, we have Sophia Chavez, who is a contracts manager at the technology company. Hi, Sophia.
Hey, Sophia, how are you?
I'm good. We're here like from one Sophia to the other Sophia.
Yeah.
I know Ricardo touched on changing countries and cultures, but what about when we're talking about an organizational culture? How do you know if a candidate is a good fit for that company's culture?
I like this question. It's very important, as Sam mentioned, the soft skills a candidate brings to the table. Focusing on this specific topic is vital to hire a successful candidate in a role. And as a manager, how do I know if they are the right fit? Well, what I do is I like to ask different but specific questions that will tell me how well they prepared for the interview. For example, what do you know about the company's culture or about the company in general? Sometimes they didn't even make the research. So based on their answer, I'll know if they prepared, if they did a research, at least, I don't know, the company's mission statement, their values, to see if they fit in there. Something else these questions will help me to find out is how flexible or adaptable they are to a changing environment. And a question here would be, I don't know, tell me an example or tell me about a time or situation that they had to challenge a process or norms and how they handled it.
Mhm.
It will help me find out how adaptable or flexible they are, and they will be. Something else that I like to find out is how well, and I know Sam and Peter talked about this, how comfortable they would feel working in a team or individually, because it can happen that a role is very individual. And a question for this, how do you feel about becoming friends with your coworkers, for example? Or describe me the work environment where you feel you perform at your best. That's something else that I try to find out during the interviews. And finally, something I also enjoy asking are questions that are not specifically related to the role, but they will help me find out about their personality. And it would be, what are your hobbies, or what's your favorite movie? And besides telling me about their personality and how they would fit in the team or the work environment, it'll tell me how they react to unexpected situations, because this is a question that you normally don't prepare for at an
Mhm.
interview.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are very good kind of preview questions. And I think a lot of people maybe have not thought that hobbies are important. I've seen as well a lot of resumes without any sort of hobbies. And sometimes those are the ones who make you more personal and more relatable. So thank
Yes,
you for highlighting those. I really appreciate it.
sure.
Thank you everyone for sharing your time and advice with us today.